Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me on my journey through the constraints-led approach for BJJ. My name is Sam Battlefields, and today I was hoping to address a issue that came up yesterday where someone was saying I stop at this point in order to get my breath and then move on from there. And it came to me that wasn't helping continuous flow, and so what that was facilitating for him was this is where I then execute another technique. So I planned my session today around trying to make things continuous to the desired result, to the outcome, rather than points along the outcome way, and I didn't do it. I wasn't able to do it. Now, what I mean by that is that the best laid plans of mice and men go after the glay, which means often go astray, and that's what happened. We didn't have the same people in. However, when I created the final game particularly, which we're focusing on this week, which is Mount, what I was hoping to do was have someone be in high mount where they're actually under the armpit. So on virtually every single video you see, the high mount, they've got their arms about here. I wanted their arms up here, the worst possible scenario. And the reason for that is because I tend to get people in this, and I will tend to take their arm home with me, and it's fucking great, right? You take away all their strength. As soon as you get to here, anywhere above 90 degrees from your body, so as soon as you, even just that little bit, you lose a ton of your strength to bring it back down, right? So if I can get someone's arms to about here, they lose a whole heap of their strength, and unless they've got some stupid back power, and I'm yet to find that person, although Ridwaan is very close, but getting the arms up here and then getting the knees behind this part. So it's pretty much night-night. It really is, because they cannot, and as is kind of shown in a couple of these things, can I show this? Yeah, I might be able to. So you'll be able to see in this video showing, he just sort of shows that with this high mount, that bridge is not affecting anyone. Don't worry about what he's doing there. He's very, very loose. It's not related to what I was showing. But but yesterday's class, we were looking to get a frame on the hip and then use that frame to get a knee through. What I was looking to do today was go from that high mount through to collecting a frame, and then from the frame through to getting that knee, and then through to getting almost like a double butterfly, so both knees on the front of the hip. Now, I'll go through the main game and then go back through the other games. So the main game, we initially started with high mount, and moved to, and it was kind of, I'm not saying it was too easy for me, but it was fairly easy. At this point now, my goal was to get my frame on the hip, and so I just destabilized, continuous destabilization, and that's a theme that will come up in this session. Continuous destabilization, and it took me it was short work essentially. And Ridwaan came along, short work for him to a degree, probably a little bit more difficult, but he was still able to do it. But he said something interesting to me, which was, normally I would go out the other way, and I was like, go out the other way? If you tried to go out the other way, I would just take your arm off. And then I said, okay, well, let's have a look at it. And sure enough, he went out the other way. And by that, I mean he went out the backside. And probably due to his shorter limbs, stockier limbs strength, he was able to go out the back without me collecting, or being able to collect in my body's configuration, which has been so accustomed to. When I get in that position, it's night-night, because people kind of, they get dejected, they realise that their arms have no strength, and so they don't even bother to do the very minimal destabilisation, which actually makes it difficult for me to attack them, right? Because if your arms are up here, it's very easy just to peel one back, and then you only need to put a little bit of a block there for the fulcrum, and you can. I literally did it with someone where I put my fingers in the back of their elbow, and then I put my fingers, because they weren't moving and there was nothing to it. I was doing that to show that I had so much control that they weren't moving at the time. This was a while back. But what Ridwaan showed me is that he was basically giving that arm, because it's a lot shorter, that this section of the arm is a lot shorter. So I had to, as he started going out the back, I was like, yeah, well, I've got your arm. And then I realised that I didn't have his arm. And so then he basically would go out the back. I would sort of frantically be grabbing onto the end of his arm, trying to hold it, and then he'd come around into side control and he'd be out. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. I need to work on why I wasn't able to affect an armbar on you, and I need to show you that while that might work for you, there's options for me to get you. And So yeah, I mean, is this an ego thing? Maybe, but it was also showing him that he was giving something quite freely. He was giving his arm up, and now that funnily enough, now that I know what he's doing, I'm going to just take his arm away. I'm just going to take his arm away. And the way I figured out, so we rolled in this position quite a bit. The way I figured it out was I need to be ultra tight. Right, so there's some really cool things that came out of this particular workshop on this on this very specific area. Was I was kind of under the impression that it's either you get your arms back, which is admittedly very difficult to come back here, and obviously we spoke about a couple of things, but ultimately, I mean, there's things that Aaron has shown in the past where you do some walking, you walk your shoulders back, where you've got to shimmy, you shimmy and all this kind of stuff. What is the underlying thing there, though? What is it that you're actually doing with all these movements? You're destabilizing them, right? And what tends to happen, what I've found, is when I'm on top doing that very high mount where it's a virtual certainty that I'm getting it, is nobody's thinking, I should still be bridging, but also moving my hips just even to the side to side, because even that side to side is going to create destabilization, which is going to create space, which is going to allow a little bit of movement side to side, a little bit of space. You can get that. Oh, that's in there now. This is in here. We're back to at least our arms where we start getting some strength back, and then we can get our elbows in, and then we can make some space with more, more movement or more destabilization, right? And one of the things I'd shown him how to set up an armbar from that really high, and so I was like, look, I want you to go for these submissions now. Go for this armbar, and he started going for it, but I used that movement to then create the space and blah blah blah. So anyway, essentially, so we didn't end up doing what I wanted to do, but we ended up doing something infinitely better because it evolved based on something that he put to me that I needed to improve against him, because I know that he's actually done this to me before, and now that won't be happening for anyone, and I'll be better placed as to how to set up the arm bars from there. So the guard game that we played, here's something I needed to do better, was the explanation. I need to work on my explanations. I need to work on how that external language. I think by trying to be too externally focused with language that was used at, say, for example, I'm watching that Ecopalooza, and because I'm using language from Greg, I'm finding that something which I could have just gone, look, I want you to get in a mount from here, that the class would have known, but instead I said you have to control the space on both sides with, and it was just, it just didn't work, and he got through and then just put his arm through both the spaces, and then was like, so is that meeting the win condition? And I was like, no. But that's my fuck up. So yeah, so that, I suppose that was one thing I needed to fix. The other thing I would say is I'm just not going to write the second game. I think I'll go back to just writing one game and then working off that. So with stand up today, we did the boxing. It's great. I'm going to call it boxing, and if you don't know what that is, check out my earlier videos. And the second game for that was just double connection. So double connection is, as it sounds, either two on one, but you have to have maintained it for 3 seconds. So that was that. When I said while we were workshopping this, a lot of energy was being used and the like, and I looked up and I said, okay, well, do you want to roll until the end of the lesson? And Ridwaan looked at me and was like, Jesus, what do you mean? And there was only 5 minutes left of the lesson, but he thought that it was only half an hour that we'd been training. So, as I said, time flies when you're in flow. One of the biggest takeaways was continuous destabilization. For Ridwaan, explaining, again, the explanations that I'm coming across, maybe I'm being a little bit too verbose with them, but destabilizing the system, it doesn't, he asked about destabilization as in, well, when I destabilize someone, there's usually an audible slap on the floor, and I'm like, okay, well, that's, you've unbalanced someone at that point, and unbalancing is a part of destabilization, but destabilization as part of a system, like destabilizing the system, can be any number of things. It doesn't necessarily just mean unbalancing. So trying to get that across as well is, I'm not even sure I'm across it enough to be able to explain it. I'd like to learn more about what destabilisation means in a scientific sense, see if that helps me to understand it deeper, to then explain it simpler. Keeping it tight, and another thing that came up while we were talking about takedowns was, I'm not going to worry about that. I really tried not to ramble for you guys today. I have also, just to let you know, I have separated out the interviews that I'm doing. I really want, I want people to easily be able to find the interviews outside of my, borderline daily ramblings on the internet about the workshops and classes that I've been implementing or going to, because obviously some of them can be a little bit less entertaining than the interviews. I do have a couple of good ones coming up, so I hope you stick around for them. My name is Sam Battlefields. Like, comment and subscribe down below. Let me know what you think. Speak to you soon. Cheers.